Hi all, in this video we will try to understand what each house represents in a horoscope. We all know that in a horoscope there are 12 houses in Vedic astrology, right? Each house consisting of some energy, and each house represents some matters of a native. If you see the first house is called as the ascendant, and when a person is taking birth and that time, if you are looking at the east direction in the sky, see all the zodiac signs, right? They are in the sky actually. And when you are looking at the east direction at a particular point of time, right? And whatever sign that you're seeing, whatever zodiac sign you're seeing in the east direction in the sky, that sign is going to be the ascendant. You take any time, at every time you can see some ascendant, some rising sign in the east direction in the sky, right? So that is called as the ascendant, and that particular sign, that particular zodiac sign becomes your first house. So if you want to see at this point of time what is the ascendant that is going on, just look at the east direction, and in the east direction whatever sign that is rising, means whatever sign that is appearing in the east direction, that is going to be the rising sign or the ascendant of this particular time. Now you may ask, which is the most important house in a horoscope? Then the answer is obviously the first house, because first house represents your health, first house represents your existence, it represents your attitude, your nature, right? The kind of energy your body has. So if a person is, let us say, deceased throughout his life, what he can achieve, just imagine, right? He may not achieve much in his life. So definitely the health part is very, very important. So that can be understood by first house energy. So first house is health, your nature, your attitude, and your appearance. And if the first house energy is very good, if it is not filled with any functionally malefic planet, if it is not aspected, or if it is not filled with a weak or afflicted planet's energy, then definitely you can say the person is going to be very healthy, right? So you may ask, what are the functionally malefic planets? What are the afflicted planets? What are weak planets? So this kind of things we will talk in our next video. In this video, we will only try to understand the energies of each and every house. So that is the first house energy, and the most important house in a horoscope is always the first house. What about the second house? Second house is also very important. Every house is important, and of course second house is also very important because it represents your wealth, also the bank balance. It clearly represents your liquid cash, how much liquid cash a person can have at any point of time in his life. Such kind of energy you can find in second house. Second house also represents your speech and the kind of food you eat. So how the person like to speak. Some people, they don't want to utter any bad words. Some people, they like to utter some bad words. They like to speak negatively, right? Such kind of tendency they may have. It's because of some malefic planet looking at your second house, right? So what kind of food a person may like, that also can be seen from the second house. So second house is mainly it is your income, right? Your early age, your family is your second house, right? So the kind of worldly possessions, if you just understand, if you want to buy some ornaments, if you want to buy any kind of jewelry, what you want actually, you want some liquid cash, right? So if you want to buy some ornaments, if you are able to buy some jewelry or not, such kind of things are also can be seen from the second house. Second house, it represents your right eye. You know, in your eyes, the right eye you can always see from the second house. A throat also you can see, because speech and the throat, right? So in Vedic astrology, generally we give each house one body part. Something like for the first house we give head, right? Because that is the first house related thing. And in the second house, we try to give the speech related things, the throat related things, right? So such kind of energy you can find in the second house. And what about the third house? Is third house also very important? It is very important because it represents your self efforts. Means, see, every house can also give a way of getting some money through your capabilities. Like if your second house energy is good, second house is also related to banking, right? If the second house energy is very good, the person may gain a lot of money through some banking jobs, right? That also we can predict. In that way also we can predict. And if you see the third house, in the third house, you can see some kind of marketing related activities, tours and travels, agency business, franchisees, the documentation, any kind of documentation you see, whether it is visa, passport, right? Even you get a ticket. If you are a politician, you get some ticket, right? To contest in so and so election. What kind of ticket you can get? You get a ticket of a good constituency or a bad constituency. So if your third house energy is very good, then we can expect something good for you. The kind of commissions you get, you do some kind of brokerage or something, right? So because third house is entirely related to the communication is very important for your marketing stuff, or any kind of agency business, this kind of thing. So these are all, if you are able to make them as a way of earning money. If your third house energy is good, you're good in marketing. So through marketing, you can get some good amount of money. If your third house energy is not good, but still you want to do some kind of marketing activities, or you are in tours and travels business, then that may not be very comfortable for you. That may not fetch very good results for you in that kind of profession, right? So third house also represents your siblings, mainly your younger siblings, right? So younger sister or younger brother. So this kind of things also you can see from the third house. So signing the contracts, if they are any kind of paperwork, all are related to the third house only. The short journeys, right? So whether you can get benefit from the short journeys or not, a very small distance traveling, with that you are going to get some benefit or not, right? So ornaments and clothes also you can see from the third house. Your taste of writing, you are interested in writing the thing or not, such kind of activities also you can see. Third house, according to Parashara, in olden days, actually these astrologers were they mainly used to work in the courts of kings, right? So in those days, whatever king says, that is going to be the final, right? King was treated as a god in those days. So in the courts of kings, there are so many people working. There would be some commander working in the court, there would be some astrologer working in the court, there would be a minister working in the court. So these astrologers, right, every kingdom used to have one main astrologer, and below that astrologer there would be some four astrologers. One astrologer were taking care of south and southeast. Another, there are 8 directions, right? So the 4 mini astrologers under the big astrologer used to take care of 2 directions each in the whole 8, right? Like that, the system was very means in those days kings were very much interested to give a lot of importance to astrology. Every king used to have one astrologer in his court, and if let us say the astrologer is not able to predict very good, then always the king used to get a lot of anger on the astrologer. This kind of things were very common. And let me tell you, the third house represents the house of courage also. Whether a king is able to, if the king can have some good courage or not, this kind of stuff also, the ancient astrologers used to check from the third house, right? If the third house energy is very good, then yes, right, the person may have very good courage and he can do something great in the battlefield. As per Parashara, if Rahu is sitting in the third house, Rahu is like whom? Rahu is a demon, right? He's a Rakshasa. So if Rahu is sitting in the third house, this kind of person, this is demonic activities, right? So such kind of person can win in the battlefield very easily, because third house is called as the Vikramasthana, means the house of courage. So that is the most important thing. So third house energies in the olden days, they were very important for kings. So that is about the third house. And one more thing is the body parts. If you observe, third house represents the right ear, right? And also shoulders, arms, right? This kind of, if third house energy is very good, the shoulders would also look very good. So that is about the third house. In these days, third house is very much important for all the marketing, documentation, right? Any kind of documentation, the tours and travel, the short distance traveling, the signing the contracts, the short journeys, all these things are related to the third house. Now let us try to understand the fourth house. What is fourth house? Fourth house is called as the Sukhasthana. It is going to show your emotional wellness and the kind of happiness you get from your house, wherever you're living, right? From that house, see, some people, they don't want to go to their house after completing their job in the office. Well, they don't want to go to their house, because in the house they don't have some comfortable environment, because their fourth house is damaged, right? The fourth house has very bad energy, then they may not feel like going to a house at all right? So that's why looking at the fourth house is also called as bandhusthana, means your relatives. It's very good. It is also the matrusthana. Your fourth house represents your mother, and your mother's health is also fourth house, right? The domestic peace you have is always the fourth house. And also in the education part, the +1 and plus 11 and plus 12 means that is plus, it's called a +1 and +2. That means your 11th standard and the 12th standard. It's +1 and +2, that is the 11th standard and the 12th standard. And fourth house is very important for your real estate business. If you are in real estate and if your fourth house energy is very good, then you will have a very good real estate profession. And fourth house represents your house, right? If your fourth house is very good, your house is going to be very good. Your house is, the construction and everything is very good. It represents your vehicles. It is your comfort, basically your emotional happiness is fourth house, right? And fourth house is also good for Vastu related activities. If you want to be in the business of Vastu, or if you want to be in the business of real estate or vehicle business, right? All these things are related to your fourth house only. So fourth house is also very important, by which you can gain some money if you are in the field of real estate and vehicle business, right? The Vastu consultation, right? This kind of things are good for fourth house. They are, if fourth house is good, you're going to gain some amount of money in these matters. Then what about the fifth house? Fifth house is called as the house of intelligence, the house of progeny. It represents your intelligence and also your bachelor degree education. Whatever education you have throughout your life, that may not be very important, but the bachelor degree, right? The BTech or the BSc, whatever bachelor degree you may have, that is going to give you some food in your life. So that bachelor degree education is very important. So fifth house is very important. Now also for the married people, fifth house is important because fifth house is called as the house of creativity and house of children, right? It's a house of utpatti, right? It's a house of creation. Means this santanotpatti, right? The progeny is also kind of creation. So fifth house is mainly important if you are looking at the progeny, your children, whether your means the person be able to take birth or not, right? A person is able to give birth to children or not, right? Such kind of things can be clearly seen from the fifth house. And also fifth house is very good for speculation, a stock market related speculation, right? Fifth house is also a kind of house of luck. Of course, ninth house is the big house related to luck, and fifth house is house of romance, the romantic, right? It's related to the romantic things, some kind of amusements, right? The love affairs, especially the lady love and all the stuff, right? They're all related to the fifth house. Your artistic talent, whether you can become a great artist or not, right? So, and your health of first child, right? There are some advisory things, right? Because advertisements or advisory related, all these things are related to creativity. So that's why they're all that energy you can see from the fifth house. It is also called as the house of learning, house of intelligence. It's related to sports. If a person wants to excel in sports, then fifth house energy is very much important. It's something like, it's a house of creativity, right? If someone wants to do interior designing business or any kind of, if you're in creative field, like if you're into movie field or fashion designing, any kind of creative field, then this fifth house energy is very, very important. And in the body parts, what fifth house actually represents? Fifth house represents your belly, your liver, mainly your right, your spleen. Liver is also represented by fifth house. And if you ask me, the fourth house, we did not see the fourth house previously. Fourth house, you can give lungs, chest, and you can give heart also to the fourth house. The fourth house, because the fourth house and fifth house are very much related in the body parts, because mainly the chest, lungs, stomach, right, the belly, heart, liver, all are related, all are at in the same environment, in the same uh, big body part you can observe. So definitely you can give breeze, chest, the lung, the stomach, right, part of stomach to the fourth house. Even heart also you can give to fourth house. And fifth house you can give uh, to the belly, mainly the liver part, the spleen, right? So you can give them to fifth house. So that is about fifth house. Now let's try to understand the most important house, that is the sixth house. Sixth house represents service. Your first job is sixth house. Generally people say sixth house is diseases, debts, enemies, it's a bad house. See, till now we discussed five houses. All the five houses, we we discussed are all positive things. But the moment sixth house comes, we are mainly talking about diseases, debts, and enemies, and court cases, litigation, the complications, right? The kind of litigations you have, the disputes you have, right? So we talk about such kind of activities in sixth house. That's why sixth house is called as dusthana, right? It's a malefic house basically. But sixth, and then you may ask, then sixth house is not good for anything. That is your question. But sixth house is good for some of the things. See, services. If you don't have a service oriented nature, then you may not perform a good job in your profession, right? So the service, how much a person serve, how qualitatively a person can serve, that is really the sixth house. Sixth house, that's why your service oriented nature can give you your first job. So in sixth house you can find the doctors, the lawyers. Let us say if your functionally benefic Jupiter is sitting in your sixth house, then you may try to become a lawyer, you may try to become a judge even, right? So some financiers you can observe in sixth house related energy. The main thing is competitiveness, competitive exams, right? If a person is writing competitive exam, and if he is able to win in that competitive exam or not, you can see that from the sixth house. Even in the Kalapurush Kundali, means the general Kundali, that is Aries is as the first sign, if you observe, sixth house is Virgo, and its Lord is basically Mercury. Mercury is the representation of logical thinking, right? He is the representation of competitive exams. So, if a person wants to win in the competitive exams or any kind of fights, right, then this sixth house energy is very important. That's why Parashara says if Rahu is sitting in the sixth house, then the person is going to win any kind of fight. The person may win in competitive exams because Rahu is a demon and he is also very intelligent, right? Just look at the story of Rahu and Ketu. Rahu silently came in this particular the group of devatas, right, for taking that nectar, right? So he was very cunning in nature. Just understand, right? So you can make some money out of the sixth house related activities also, like you can become a doctor, you can become a lawyer, a financier, or through some fights also you can gain, because sixth house is always related to the fighting, the competitiveness, and also payments of a business, whether you are able to get payments in your business very nicely or not, that is also sixth house. And the loan related activities, right, repayment of loans, that is also the sixth house. Your daily routines, if a person is having very good sixth house energy, he is very disciplined in nature generally, right? Because if the sixth house is very good, then he is something like he's a service oriented guy, so he can perform the daily activities very nicely, waking up early morning at 6 o'clock every day, and finishing so and so activity by 7 o'clock, and finishing so and so activity by 8 o'clock. So this kind of discipline, right, the daily routines related discipline, the service oriented nature, so that is the biggest positive thing in the sixth house. And the competitive exams, the fights, right, in the litigations, the fighting nature and all the stuff, that is also related to sixth house. And if you talk about the body parts, then kidney, large intestine, uterus, anus, all those things are in the sixth house related stuff. Now let's try to understand the seventh house. Seventh house is always, everybody knows it's marital relationship, legal marriage, right? And also it is related to business, mainly the trading activities, the retail business, whatever kind of business deals you have. So that is all related to your seventh house. It is always related to the partnership in a business, right? And you can always see marriage relationships, the main legal marriage, right? So that is always related to the seventh house. And seventh house represents uterus, glands, right? Such kind of things also seventh house can represent. Now the eighth house, the most important thing is eighth house. Eighth house is called as the house of longevity. Means how much ayusthana people say. Means Parashara says is the Ayush, it is a house of Ayush. It's Ayusthana. So this is a house of longevity. How many years a person can live, that you can find it out by the eighth house matters, right? So the kind of miseries, the problems, the pains and hurdles, hardships, eighth house is also called as the hurdles, right? Just how we saw sixth house has some kind of negative energy, eighth house also has some negative energy. Eighth house is the primary dusthana. Even though 6, 8, 12, 3 are called as dusthanas, the eighth house is the primary dusthana, right? But you may ask, eighth house is always related to this kind of addictions, surgeries, accidents, right? Sudden things that are happening in your life, and also the suicidal tendencies, that is also related to the eighth house. You may ask, so eighth house is always related to only the negative thing. There is no positive thing in the eighth house. You may ask that. But there are some positive things in this particular society, means the current society, as per the current society. Those are the easy money, something like the bribery or the dowry, right? So any kind of money without working, if you gain some kind, like ancestral property, you don't work for any the inherited property, you don't work, right? It comes to you very easily. So that is eighth house energy. So if eighth house energy is very good, then you may expect this kind of good things, right? So why people are afraid of eighth house, sixth house and 12th house? Because they are also related to some negative things, not only the positive things, right? So that's why you can always say eighth house has some negatives and also some positive things, like ancestral property is very, it's very good, right? And occult sciences, any kind of occult science you take, that is the hidden science, right? So all the hidden sciences, research oriented things, the surgeons, the engineering related activities, right? The new innovation, the great innovations, right? Those are all related to eighth house. It's the hidden research, hidden energies, all the hidden energies, the kind of detective activities. There are some detectives, you don't know, or someone is actually watching you or something. So this watching without, without others knowing it, so such kind of hidden activities, the hidden related things, you can always check them from your eighth house. The only problem is this kind of mental pain, obstacles, right? So this kind of problems, the hurdles, hardships, miseries, problems, addictions, surgeries, these are some of the bad things associated to eighth house. And what are the body parts? The private parts, of course, the scrotum, pelvis, seminal vesicles, right? These are all in the eighth house matters. Mainly the eighth house is related to the private parts, right? As per Parashara, eighth house is mainly related to the private parts. Even you can see it in the natural horoscope, means in the Kalapurush Kundali, eighth house is the Scorpio, and that is always, it's a watery sign, it's the hidden energy, the deep water energy, and it is also the representation of the private parts. And let's try to understand the ninth house. Ninth house is it's a dharma house, it's a guru house, it's a religious house, it's your PhD house, it's a higher learning house. So whenever someone wants to check if he is going to gain some his PhD or not, he is going to do some higher learning or not, then he can definitely check the ninth house. Ninth house is also called as the house of religion, right? So it is also related to the foreign travel. So whenever someone is asking you if the person is going can go to foreign lands or not, the ninth house is also very important. Of course, 12th house is also important, but ninth house. So if you can find some relation between ninth and 12th, then definitely that is going to lead the person to a settlement in the foreign lands. Ninth house is your publicity, right? It's a kind of consultancy also, the guidance. So guru gives you guidance, right? So if your ninth house energy is very good, then you can open a consultancy, you can give guidance to the people, and even people may ask you some kind of guidance, right? Because your ninth house is good, so they may ask, right? So it's a house of great wisdom, because ninth house is higher learning. It's not a simple learning, right? So it's a very good. It's a house of luck basically, right? So it is going to provide you so many benefits in your horoscope. Ninth house is the luck factor, right? So religious institutions, so if you want to become a priest, if your ninth house energy is very good, then yes, you're going to be a priest. Even if you're not a priest, people may look at you as you are a priest because your ninth house energy is very good. They may ask you some kind of religious stuff also. They may discuss. They may feel like you can give some kind of good solutions for them, right? Related to religion and all this stuff. So giving good solutions like fifth house and ninth house, these are the solutions giving energies, right? Even fifth house is related to the cure of a disease, right? As sixth house is the disease and fifth house is the cure of a disease. Fifth house energy, if fifth house energy is very good, then you may get out of a disease very quickly. That is also one important thing about fifth house that we did not discuss previously. So ninth house body parts are hips, thighs, and hips and thighs basically, right? These are the body parts represented by ninth house. Then the karma sthana, the 10th house, the house of profession or the house of career, and also the house of status, right? And politics, for politicians, this particular 10th house is very important for politicians because it's the house of authority, house of it's the status, house of government, it's a house of promotion. So 10th house is really really good. Of course, in the matters of business also you can see 10th house in addition to 7th house, because that is going to provide some kind of, it is a profession and career, right? So it's a, and ninth house represents mutual relationship with your father, whereas 10th house is mainly represents your father, just like 4th house represents your mother, and just opposite to it the 10th house is your father, only father, right? Whereas ninth house is mutual relationships with your father. So 10th house is your social honor, your status, your authority, your power, right? So all these things are in the 10th house only. So activities outside your house, all activities outside your house is also the representation of your 10th house, because outside activity, because whatever business or whatever work you do out of your house only. You don't work inside your house generally. So it's also called as activities outside of your house. And the body parts are knees, joints, bones, your mainly the back part, you can say, even some back hair also you can relate to the 10th house, right? That is the 10th house related energy. It's very important. The 10th house energy is always very important because that is going to provide you the livelihood, right? The career and the profession, it's not the simple normal career, it's the career that is going to provide you some kind of livelihood, right? So whenever you want to check someone's horoscope in the matters of job, then definitely you need to check the first house, right? Because that is the nature that is going to decide the nature of the person. Of course, that is going to decide the attitude, and you need to check the second house. You can check all the houses, But mainly leave the first house also. You can check the second house, right? In the matters of profession, check the second house, because that is the house of bank balance, right? So means that is a house showing you the bank balance that you have. So as your salary comes and credited to your bank account and it is a liquid cash, so definitely the second house is very important. So if your second house is very good, then it means that you may have a high salaried job, right? And the sixth house, if it is good, then you are very service oriented. And if the 10th house is also very good, then your profession is very good. So 2, 6, 10 are very much important whenever you're checking the houses, right? Whenever you're checking the profession mainly. And what about the 11th house? 11th house is always, it is called as the fulfillment of desires. It's a house of fulfillment of desires, house of gains, and it is the house of friends, house of elder siblings, your elder brother, elder sister, all those people are in the 11th house, right? You can see, means your social circle, whether you go to a club or pub or wherever, uh, right? All the social activities, your emotional attachments, right? All your social activities are nothing but your emotional attachments, right? So the love affairs and the friends, this kind of things also can be seen from the 11th house. Mainly it's the friends and elder siblings, the social circle and the society, how you're how you're going to mingle with the society, right? You love to be with your friends or not, right? All your gains, profits, right? So second house is your salary or liquid income, right? And 11th house is how much you're going to gain finally, right? So because there's some expenditure also, expenditure is denoted by the 12th house, right? We'll see that in a moment. So 11th house is, after all this, how much you're going to gain, what is the profit in your business, right? And how much you're good with your friends, are you a social person? That is also 11th house. The accumulated wealth, the profit, that is all 11th house. Relations, how you maintain the relations with your friends and elder siblings, it's elder sister or elder brother, right? So that is all means what kind of social honor you may have, that is also the 11th house. Because uh, right, if 11th house is energy is good, and uh, then 10th house energy is also good, then 10th house is status and 11th house is the social honor and how you behave socially, then these two are very good. Then just imagine the kind of social behavior of the person, right? Social success, you can say a social success, right? And body parts of the 11th house are generally the legs, left ear, teeth and ankle part, right? So that is the 11th house. And what about the 12th house? House of losses, house of expenditure, house of isolation, a house of seclusion, right? If you have more 12th house energy, then you always feel like being alone. You always like to be alone, right? You are very comfortable being alone if your 12th house energy is more. It's also called as a house of hospitalization, as a foreign travel, because when you go to foreign lands, you generally be alone, right? There are all new people in your hometown or in your own state. Then you may not feel like you're alone, right? Because all the people talking your own language and everyone, you know everything. You feel a bit more comfortable in your homeland, whereas in foreign land you feel like it's called as a out of comfort zone also, the 12th house. Because whereas your homeland is your comfort zone, whereas out of comfort zone, also the house of isolation, house of hospitalization, all related to the 12th house, right? So 12th house is also one of the dusthanas, you can say. And you may ask me, are there any good things about the 12th house? Yes, there are some good things about the 12th house. That is the investment. 12th house is called as the investment because it is the house of expenditure, right? Whether you are going to spend your money on some good accounts or bad accounts, right? So Parashara calls, if Parashara says, if in the 12th house, if there are some good energies, the person is going to spend money on some good activities. Something like a functionally benefic, Jupiter is present in the 12th house. then just imagine the person is going to spend money on some good activities only, good accounts only, right? So very auspicious things only he will spend his money. So that is the idea of 12th house as per Parashara, and of course a kind of secret works. And 12th house is mainly called as the Moksha Sthana, right? The house of liberation. And it is also called as the house of bed pleasures, right? So if your 12th house energy is very much related to, pleasures and all the stuff, like Venus is alone there, then you may have some good amount of pleasures, right? If that Venus is also very strong and functionally benefic, it's functionally benefic or not, it depends on your ascendant, right? So 12th house is also the house of sorrows, you can say, because when you are alone, you feel, it depends. If you are comfortable being alone, then it is house of happiness for you, right? But generally, when you are alone, then people are a bit, they are not, they don't feel good. So that's why it's a house of sorrow, you can say. Good things are the investment and the pleasures of beds, right? And 12th house also represents the secret enemies. You don't know you have that enemy in your life, but he is there for you. So that is the secret enemies, right? Private enemies is your 12th house. And losses, of course, the expenditure, the losses, and also it represents the relations with you have with opposite sex, other than the legitimate or other than the legal marriage, right? What kind of affairs you may have, the secret affairs, right? So such kind of things also can be represented by the 12th house. So this is about different houses. It's a house of foreign travel also, 12th houses, because by doing foreign travel you will be alone there, and it's a house of isolation. So this is about different houses. And now if you just want to check one horoscope here, so let's try to understand this. Let's try to take some other date also if you want, some other, all right? So here this particular horoscope is having the first house as the Libra ascendant. The ascendant is Libra. So basically the ascendant lord is Venus, and he is sitting in the 7th house. And who are the functionally malefic planets for this particular horoscope? The functionally malefic planets for this horoscope are only the Mercury, right? And here Mercury is sitting in the 5th house. So this person, and even more, Rahu is also sitting here. So both Rahu and Mercury are sitting in the 5th house. So as you can say, wherever Rahu sits, that becomes your life's purpose. And Rahu is going to give a lot of troubles in that particular in the house. But he is good. He is basically a demon. He is good in 3, 6 and 10, 11 houses also. Because Rahu is having that kind of demonic nature. As he is in the 3rd house, by having Rahu, you can put more efforts. If it is in the 3rd house, I am telling. So leave about that. Rahu is good in 3, 6, 10, 11 according to Parashara. We'll talk about that in some other video. Let's talk about this horoscope. In this horoscope, the functionally malefic Mercury is sitting in the 5th house, and also Rahu is sitting in the 5th house. So the 5th house matters. In the 5th house matters, this person is going to experience some kind of bad events, some kind of troubles in the 5th house matters. So what are the 5th house matters? 5th house is the house of creativity, house of children, house of intelligence, house of bachelor degree, right? So this person may have some kind of gaps or some kind of trouble in completing the bachelor degree, or this person may get some kind of problem in achieving a good seat in the bachelor degree, or achieving good percentage in the bachelor degree, or in completing the bachelor degree, the person may have some kind of troubles, right? So this person may not be good in the creative fields, right? In creative fields, this person means if this person becomes a movie star, or this person wants to become an astrologer, then also it's a problem, because an astrologer has to provide the solutions, right? The fifth house is the house of solutions, house of creativity. And this person cannot do interior designing and all this stuff also. So in these matters, so even he may face some kind of trouble in childbirth, right? In giving birth to children also, right? He cannot become a good sportsman, right? So he is not good in advertisement field also. So he may have some kind of problems in the belly, in the liver, spleen part, right? So that's what we can understand, right? And even more, if you check the dignity of the fifth house lord, that is Saturn, so as this fifth lord is sitting in the 10th house very strongly, somewhat better, right? That is somewhat better. And let's try to understand the other things. If you see the Jupiter is sitting in the second house, so that is going to give him some kind of wealth. And the lord of the second house, that is Mars. So Mars is also, he is sitting in the fourth house. It's a very auspicious house because 1, 4, 7, 10, the Kendra houses are good houses generally. So in the fourth house, Mars is comfortable. So this person may have some kind of good amount of income because his second house is very good. And the first house, if you check the first house, that is the lord of the first house, Venus is comfortably placed in the seventh house, but that is the Aries. The sign is Aries. That is a fiery sign. In fire sign, Venus may not be very comfortable, but it is okay, good, right? It's fine. May not be very bad also at the same time. You can clearly see Venus is here neutral with the landlord. It is okay kind of thing, right? As he is sitting in the seventh house, right? One of the Kendra houses. His health is also very good. Okay. So second house is good, house of income. The third house, Jupiter is sitting in the second house. So third house is also good. Fourth house is good. So you can say all the matters related to the, but only problem is Mars can give some kind of aggressiveness, right? So in the fourth house matters means with the mother, he may behave sometimes with his mother, he may behave aggressively. That is the only thing. But at the same time, he may have fourth house is a house of mother and also the house of real estate and vehicles. Mars is the karaka of this kind of houses and vehicles, the real estate matters. It's very good in those matters basically, right? In the domestic happiness side, Mars a kind of aggressiveness. That's the problem. He can become a Vastu consultant also. He can earn a lot of money with that. And it's comparatively it is very good, right? He can have some good real estate and vehicles, whatever. And +1, +2 education is also somewhat better, fine. So fifth house we discussed, and sixth house is the house of health. And here Sun is sitting, and Sun is actually the lord of the 11th house, the house of gains, sitting in the sixth house. So he is relating the 11th house matters with the sixth house matters. So it is obviously telling you the 11th house matters are, it's a very good placement if he wants to do some kind of, if he wants to become a lawyer, if he wants to become, so sixth house is related to diseases, debts and enemies. Not only that, sixth house is very good for competitive exams, right? So competition. In the competition, he may be very good. And the 11th house is house of gains, so he may have some kind of gains through debts. He may have some kind of gains through by becoming a lawyer or by becoming a doctor, right? And definitely he may gain from his first job, you can say, right? So these are the good things, and the bad things are, as the 11th house is directly sitting in the 6th house, it may become a bit weaker. It may weaken the 11th house things because 6th house is related to debts. So his gains may go waste in the debts, in repayment of loan or whatever, right? In the payment of loans and all this stuff. So if he wants to utilize the sixth house, this kind of placement, 11th house related to sixth house, right? He has such kind of energy, and it is up to him how to utilize it, right? He can utilize this one in the competitive examination, or by becoming a lawyer he can utilize this energy, right? And he can become a businessman, by which he may get his payments in the business, right? So some people, they feel very much they cannot ask money, right? They cannot ask money. They are very fear of asking money. They're not free in asking money. But sun is sitting here, so the person is authoritative. The person is a person in the business field. He can ask money very easily, like with authority he can ask, with power he can ask, right? So discipline, in the matters of discipline also, it's good, right? It's good in some activities, but it is bad. So it is up to the person how he is going to utilize that particular energy. So we'll talk about more things in upcoming videos, right? And the seventh house matters, of course. It's Venus is present. As Venus is present, you can clearly see the Venus related energy is present there. So that is a bit better in the marriage relationships, right? And Venus is also the ascendant lord, so it is Venus is not so comfortable here because it is the fiery sign, but it is okay, good, it's nice, right? And this particular Venus has the Mars fourth aspect also. It is going to make him passionate in love making and all the stuff. And eighth house is of course the eighth lord is sitting in the seventh house. So let's just imagine the eighth lord is sitting in the seventh house. How can the person utilize, how the person should utilize this energy? Eighth house is sitting in the seventh house, right? So if he wants, he can gain through the eighth house matters, means gain. He can have some kind of research related things. If he does some kind of research related activities, if he becomes a surgeon or any kind of research, he is good, any kind of research. So if he puts his mind more into the research, then he can utilize this eighth house energy into 7. If he is not going to utilize that energy in this particular way, or in studying occult sciences, in doing some research, right, or getting some dowry, it's clearly showing the 8th house is sitting in the 7th house, so 8th and 7th are related, so obviously he may get some good amount of dowry also. If he is not going to utilize this energy in a good way, then he is going to get some problems in the marriage. He may get some kind of miseries and sufferings. That is how it works. You have some energy, and that energy is relating to houses, then you have to utilize that energy in some positive way. That is where astrology is guiding you, right? If you are able to utilize that energy in a positive way, then the energy is consumed there itself, and there is no energy balance to involve in bad matters at all, right? So that is the guidance you should get from astrology. And 9th house Mercury is sitting in the 5th house with Rahu, so is going to suffer in the 9th house matters also. So if he doesn't want to suffer, of course, this particular Mercury is basically functionally malefic, so he has to work. So with all the energies, by checking all the energies, he has to understand, he has to put his energies in positive ways and tries to fight against the challenges. So 5th house is his challenge house. So just understand the energies of all the houses and work on the 5th house matters. That is how he should guide his life, right? So 9th house matters also, he may become a bit weaker. If he wants to pursue some PhD or something, then it is going to, it may not be possible for him, and he is going to face a lot of troubles also. Even his bachelor degree is not good here. So he may complete it with some hurdles, of course. And obviously there's no other way to do this ninth house stuff. And what about the 10th house? Is 10th house very good? 10th house is very strong here. Moon is sitting there. Of course, we need to check that is a waxing moon or waning moon. That is a different thing. A Saturn is present, so definitely Sun is the Karaka of job. So he is getting a good job because of the placement of the Sun in the 6th house. And Saturn is also the Karaka of job, you can say. So Saturn is his fifth lord, is a very benefic lord sitting in the 10th house. So obviously you can see his job is very good, right? Except that Saturn and Moon conjunction, that is okay. Here it is fine. So Moon is very strongly placed, right? So definitely this particular guy is going to gain through job. See, his income is also very good. Jupiter is sitting there. And his first job, Sun is there. Sun is a natural karaka of job, profession. And Saturn is going to make you work as a service-oriented planet. Saturn is service, right? Saturn is work. Work is Saturn, Saturn is work. That's it. So Saturn is sitting there. So he is going to gain something great through his job, basically. And he's going to gain a lot of vehicles, a lot of houses and all the stuff. So 11th house, that is the house of gains. Ketu is sitting there. Ketu is your past life victory. Ketu is going to give the 11th house matters very easily. So gains also, it is representing the gains. A 12th house, of course, Mercury is directly sitting in the 5th house, right? So 12th Lord is sitting in the 5th house. May not be very good. But at the same time, how can he utilize that energy? So the 12th house related energy he can apply in the 5th house matters. Like he can, so 12th house represents your investment. Just invest in the 5th house matters so that you can even utilize the 5th house energy here, right? We'll try to have a very detailed view of different horoscopes in our upcoming videos, but these are somewhat basics, right? So whenever you're checking a house as per Parashara system, just check the occupant energy. The occupant's energy means if you check the 4th house here, a 4th house energy is related to Mars, right? So Mars energy is in the 4th house and 4th lord is Saturn here. Saturn is sitting in the 10th house, right? So definitely what it is indicating, a 4th house energy is very good. Saturn also represents the agricultural lands. Mars represents the vehicles and Venus represents the vehicles, of course. Mars represents your real estate things. So your house also, house related things also. Real estate things. The 4th house is also the house of real estate and that one. So Mars is going to give all those things. He is going to gain through profession as his 10th house is very good. And 4 and 10, the relation between 4 and 10 is very good, two Kendra houses. So that's how, right? You just check the energy of that house by checking the occupant and also where the Lord is sitting. Here Lord is comfortably sitting in the 10th house and also the 4th house. The occupant Mars is also very good for the 4th house, except the aggressive behavior in the domestic environment. If he is able to control it, then that is also fine, right? So this is the analysis. Thanks for watching my video. We'll try to explore more horoscopes very deliberately. In this video, the video is becoming longer and longer. Of course, it's 1 hour almost. So we try to finish it as early as possible, but I will try to post it in. And also, mainly we are trying to discuss the houses here, right? In some other video, we will only check the case studies. We'll take different case studies, and I have some horoscopes that I have seen, and clearly I knew those people and I really know their lives, right? I will try to discuss some of them with you, right? So thanks for watching my video, and with their approval only, of course. It's not like, I'm not going to reveal their names and all the stuff. With their approval only, I'm going to explain the horoscopes, and I'm not going to reveal their names at all, right? So thanks for watching my video.